Remember when MTV actually played music videos? When you'd wait by the radio with your finger on the record button, hoping the DJ wouldn't talk over the intro? The 1980s gave us some of the most memorable music ever made, but not every hit stuck around in the public memory. Some songs got buried under time, forgotten even though they filled dance floors and topped the charts back in the day. These are 10 songs only those who grew up in the 80s remember. Number 10, Harden My Heart by Quarterflash, 1981. You probably don't remember the name Quarterflash, but the second that saxophone kicks in, something clicks. This Portland-based band hit it big in 1981 with a song that had everything the decade loved. New wave energy, a driving beat, and Rindy Ross delivering vocals that could break your heart while she wailed on that sax. The song peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, which is pretty impressive for a band's debut single. Ross and her husband Marv were the core of Quarterflash, and they brought something different to the table. How many lead singers were also the saxophone player? Not many, and Ross made it look effortless. The song itself is about holding on when someone's left you behind. There's this urgency to it, especially when it builds toward the end. The bass line drives everything forward, and that guitar just cuts through. It was everywhere in 1981. Radio couldn't get enough of it, and it was all over the early days of MTV. But here's the thing about being a one-hit wonder. That one hit can be massive, can define a moment in time, and then just disappear from the collective memory. Quarterflash put out more music, had a few more songs chart, but nothing came close to this. And somewhere along the way, even this song got forgotten. You don't hear it on classic rock stations. It's not in the rotation on 80s weekends. But man, when you hear it again, it all comes flooding back. Number 9, Two of Hearts by Stacy Q, 1986. Come on, I got this feeling. This is pure 1986 energy distilled into 3.5 minutes. Stacy Q brought high NRG dance music into the mainstream, and Two of Hearts was her big moment. The song hit number 3 on the charts, and if you were anywhere near a dance floor in 1986, you heard it about 100 times. High NRG was this whole subgenre of dance music that was big in clubs, especially in the LGBTQ+ community, before it started crossing over. Fast tempo, electronic beats, catchy hooks. Stacy Q had been working in that scene before this song made her a household name, at least for a little while. The production on this track is so distinctly 80s. Those synth drums, the electronic bass, the way the vocals are processed. And that hook just burrows into your brain and refuses to leave. Stacy Q had this voice that was perfect for this kind of music. Not technically perfect, maybe, but it had character, and it fit the vibe. The song topped dance charts across Europe and did well in the UK. In the US, it made Stacy Q a star for about a year. She had a couple more songs chart, but nothing matched this. And like so many songs from that era, it faded from regular rotation. You won't find it on most 80s compilation albums. Radio stations don't play it. But if you were there in 1986, you remember. Come on, I got this feeling you're going. Number 8, I Just Died in Your Arms by Cutting Crew, 1986. Okay, so this one actually got more airplay over the years than most songs on this list, but ask someone under 40 who sang it, and you'll get blank stares. Cutting Crew was a British band that made it big in America, with this dramatic, romantic ballad that somehow managed to be both tender and powerful at the same time. The song hit number 1 in the US in 1987, which shows you how long songs could take to climb the charts back then. It was released in mid-1986 and just kept building momentum. Nick Van Eed wrote it, sang it, and poured everything into that performance. The way his voice cracks on certain words, the emotion in the delivery, it all worked. The production is textbook mid-80s rock. Those punchy synthesizers, the big drum sound, the guitar that comes in at just the right moments. It's been used in movies and TV shows over the years, usually as a joke about 80s excess, which is a shame, because it's actually a well-crafted song. Cutting Crew had one more decent hit with I've Been in Love Before, but it didn't have the same impact. And eventually, they became that band that sang that one song, if people remembered them at all. But if you grew up in the 80s, you remember singing along at the top of your lungs, probably more than once. Number 7. Tarzan Boy by Baltimora, 1985. This song is absolutely bonkers, and that's why it's perfect. Baltimora was part of the Italo disco scene, and Tarzan Boy is exactly what that scene was about. Weird, fun, completely over the top, and utterly danceable. The music video is a fever dream. Lead singer Jimmy McShane decked out in makeup that would make Boy George jealous, jungle imagery that makes no sense, and that chorus, that's just pure joy. The song peaked at number 13 in the US, but it was huge in Europe. That Tarzan yell, those electronic drums, the way the whole thing just refuses to take itself seriously. Italo disco gave us some strange gems in the 80s, and this might be the strangest that actually crossed over into American markets. It's been used in commercials and movies over the years, so some people might recognize it without knowing what it is, or who sang it. But if you were listening to the radio in 1985, you knew Baltimora, at least for a little while. McShane had a complicated relationship with this song. He was the face of Baltimora, but he didn't write it or produce it, and there was some controversy about the vocals. But none of that mattered when the song was on. It was just pure, unfiltered 80s fun. Number 6. Heartbeat by Don Johnson, 1986. Yes, that Don Johnson. Sonny Crockett himself decided he was going to be a pop star, and for about 5 minutes, it actually worked. Heartbeat came out while Miami Vice was at the height of its popularity, and everything about it screamed 1986. The song hit number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100, which is legitimately impressive. The music video was directed like a Miami Vice episode, all style and mood and pastel colors. The production was handled by people who knew what they were doing, which helped, because let's be honest, Johnson was an actor first. But here's the thing, the song actually works. It's got that driving beat, those synthesizers that wash over everything, and Johnson commits to it. He's not trying to be Springsteen or anything. He's doing his own thing, and in the context of 1986, it made sense. The album it came from, Heartbeat, went gold. That's 500,000 copies, which again, is nothing to sneeze at. He tried to follow it up with another single, but lightning doesn't strike twice. And once Miami Vice ended, Johnson's music career ended with it. But if you were watching TV and listening to the radio in 1986, you absolutely remember this. Number 5. Black Velvet by Alana Miles, 1989. Here's a song that was massive in 1989 and early 1990. Hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, won a Grammy, and then just kind of vanished from the cultural memory. Alannah Myles was a Canadian singer with a powerful voice, and Black Velvet was her moment. The song is about Elvis Presley, though you might not catch that on first listen. It's got this bluesy rock feel that stood out from a lot of the pop and hair metal that was dominating the charts at the time. Myles's voice has this smoky quality to it, and the production gives everything room to breathe. That guitar riff is simple but effective, and the whole thing just grooves. It topped the charts in the US and did well internationally. Myles won the Grammy for Best Female Rock Vocal Performance. She was everywhere for a few months. And then the momentum just stopped. Her follow-up singles didn't connect the same way, and gradually, she faded from mainstream consciousness. The song still shows up occasionally on classic rock stations, but not with the frequency you'd expect for something that was #1. And most people who weren't actively listening to the radio in 1989 and 1990 probably don't know it at all. But if you were there, you remember that voice and that groove. Number 4. Toy Soldiers by Martika, 1989. Martika was only 20 years old when Toy Soldiers went to #1 in the summer of 1989. She'd been a child actor, appeared on Kids Incorporated, and then transitioned into music. This song, her second single, caught lightning in a bottle. It's melancholic, which made it stand out in an era of upbeat pop. The melody is beautiful. The production is restrained for the late 80s. And Martika's vocals have this vulnerability that makes the whole thing work. The song is about watching someone struggle, and that sadness comes through in every note. Michael Jackson's engineer, Michael Sembello, had a hand in producing it, which gave it a polish that a lot of late 80s pop lacked. It wasn't trying too hard, it wasn't overproduced, it just was what it was. A sad, pretty song about difficult circumstances. The song topped the Hot 100 and did well on adult contemporary charts. Martika had a couple more minor hits, but nothing came close to this. And as the 90s rolled in with grunge and alternative rock, her brand of pop fell out of fashion. The song gets remembered occasionally, and Eminem sampled it for Like Toy Soldiers in 2004, which introduced it to a new generation. But for the most part, it's forgotten except by those who lived through its original release. Number 3. Romeo's Tune by Steve Forber, 1980. Right at the start of the decade, Steve Forber had his biggest hit with a song that felt like it came from a different era. Romeo's Tune has this folk rock vibe, almost like what you'd expect from the 70s. But it hit number 11 in 1980 and stuck around on the charts for months. Sneak on out beneath the stars and run. Forbert was being marketed as the next Dylan, which was probably unfair to everyone involved. But he had talent, and this song showcased it. The harmonica, the acoustic guitar, the lyrics that actually told a story. It was refreshing at a time when music was starting to shift toward synthesizers and drum machines. The song is about love and taking a chance. Pretty straightforward stuff. But Forbert's delivery makes it feel genuine. There's this earnestness to it that's hard to fake. It wasn't trying to be cool or trendy. It was just a good song. Where I won't have to speak my mind and you won't have to hear. But as the 80s got more into the synth pop and new wave sound, Forbert's folk rock approach didn't fit anymore. He kept making music, still does to this day, but he never had another hit like this. And Romeo's Tune gradually disappeared from the radio. It's a shame, really, because it holds up better than a lot of songs from that era. Number 2. Crying by Don McLean, 1981. Don McLean, the guy who gave us American Pie, came back in 1981 with a cover of Roy Orbison's Crying, and somehow it went to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. This shouldn't have worked. It was a remake of a 20-year-old song, and McLean's original take on classics was mixed at best. But this one connected. The production is very 1981, with synthesizers and a polished sound that Orbison's original didn't have. But McLean's voice works for it. He's not trying to out-sing Orbison, which would be impossible anyway. He's doing his own thing with it, making it his own. The song was huge in the UK, went to number 1 there, and did solid business in the US. It was all over adult contemporary radio and even got some top 40 play. For a few months in 1981, Don McLean was a current hitmaker again. Not just the guy who sang about the day the music died, but after this, McLean didn't have another major hit. He kept recording, kept touring, but nothing charted like this did. And over time, when people think of Crying, they think of Orbison's version. McLean's cover faded away, remembered only by those who were listening to the radio when it was new. Number 1. Holdin' On by Tane Kane, 1982. Here's a deep cut that probably won't ring a bell for most people, even those who lived through the 80s. Tane Kane was a singer-songwriter who had exactly one hit, and it peaked at number 37, which means a lot of people missed it entirely. But for those who caught it, it made an impression. The song is this driving rock track with powerful female vocals. Kane's voice has this raw quality to it, and the lyrics are about hanging on when everything's falling apart. The production is typical early 80s rock. Big drums, prominent bass, guitars that cut through the mix. The chorus is legitimately catchy, with Kane belting out the title like her life depends on it. She released 2 singles total before leaving the music business, which is a whole other story. But Holdin' On deserved better than it got. It's got energy, emotion, and a hook that sticks with you. In a decade that loved big rock songs with even bigger vocals, this should have been huge. But it wasn't, and Tane Kane became a footnote, if that. The song disappeared completely, not even making it onto most 80s nostalgia playlists. You'd have to go looking for it specifically to find it these days. But if you happen to be listening to rock radio in 1982, you might remember this one. And if you do, you probably wonder why nobody else does. The thing about the 80s is that there were so many hits that some were bound to fall through the cracks. Radio was king, MTV was changing the game, and the industry was pumping out music at a pace that's hard to imagine now. A song could be everywhere for 3 months and then just disappear, replaced by the next big thing. These 10 songs represent a tiny fraction of the forgotten hits from that decade. There are hundreds more that charted, got airplay, filled dance floors, and then vanished from the cultural memory. Some of them deserve to be remembered. Some of them are probably better left in the past. But they all represent moments in time, snapshots of what people were listening to when Reagan was president and MTV played videos. What's interesting is how music consumption has changed. In the 80s, if a song wasn't on the radio or MTV, most people would never hear it. There was no YouTube, no Spotify, no way to easily track down obscure songs. So when a song fell out of rotation, it was gone. Today, all these forgotten hits are available at the click of a button. You can build entire playlists of songs you haven't thought about in 40 years. But having access to them doesn't mean people remember them. A whole generation has grown up without ever hearing Two of Hearts or Tarzan Boy. To them, the 80s means Sweet Child O' Mine and Livin' on a Prayer, and Like a Virgin. The deeper cuts, the one-hit wonders, the songs that were huge for a moment and then forgotten, those remain the property of those who were there. And maybe that's okay. Maybe every generation deserves its own secret hits, the songs that mean something to them, but don't translate to anyone else. The 80s kids have these, just like every other generation has theirs. These songs are like inside jokes, shared experiences that bond people who lived through that specific time. It's worth asking why some songs endure and others don't. Don't Stop Believin' has become a cultural touchstone, played at every sporting event and karaoke night in America. Billie Jean is still instantly recognizable decades later. But Holdin' On by Tane Kane? Forgotten. Part of it is timing. Some songs came out when the market was saturated, when there were too many hits competing for attention. Part of it is the artist. One-hit wonders by definition didn't have the staying power to keep their songs relevant. If you're not putting out new music, people move on. Part of it is just the nature of pop music. Not everything can be a classic. Most songs are meant to be enjoyed in the moment and then fade away. But there's also an element of randomness to it. Some songs that should have been forgotten stuck around. Some songs that should have been classics disappeared. There's no formula for longevity, no way to predict what will still matter 40 years down the line. It's part luck, part talent, part being in the right place at the right time. These 10 songs had their moment. They were popular, successful, enjoyed by millions of people. And then they weren't. That doesn't diminish what they were or what they meant to the people who loved them. It just means that in the endless churn of popular culture, they got left behind. If you grew up in the 80s and you remember these songs, you're part of a club. Not an exclusive club, necessarily, but a specific one. You were there when MTV launched. You remember when music videos were a new and exciting thing. You know what it was like to wait for your favorite song to come on the radio, to hear it crackling through cheap speakers, to record it on cassette tape so you could play it whenever you wanted. These songs are markers of that time. They bring back memories of high school dances, summer road trips, first loves and heartbreaks. They're tied to specific moments in your life that younger generations can't access. They're yours in a way that can't be replicated. And when you hear them now, whether it's by accident or because you went looking, they transport you back. Suddenly you're 16 again, windows down, radio up, everything ahead of you. The song might be cheesy by today's standards. The production might sound dated, but none of that matters because it's not about the song itself. It's about what the song represents. That's the power of music, especially music from your youth. It doesn't matter if anyone else remembers. It doesn't matter if the song charted at number 3 or number 37. What matters is that it meant something to you, at a time when everything felt bigger and more important than it probably was. So here's to the forgotten hits of the 80s. The songs that made us dance, made us cry, made us feel alive. The songs that nobody plays anymore, but that still live in the memories of those who were there. The songs that only those who grew up in the 80s remember, and that's exactly how it should be. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane and these forgotten gems from the greatest music decade, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the music and culture that defined our generation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.